Hello. Hi. I don't know where I'm going with this. Um, you see how long this is. This video is just gonna be me talking, me admitting some stuff, me airing things out, for lack of a better term. Um, Please excuse my disheveled hair. I just took a shower and my hair looked gross, so I put a beanie on, and it helped a little bit, but mm, we're dealing with it anyway. So yeah, do you like my decoration? Very appropriate for what we're talking about today. Um, so yeah, identity. It's a it's a it's a it's a thing, isn't it? It's a real just weird thing to talk about in general. Um, I'm not gonna be looking directly at the camera the entire time. I'm gonna be distracted due to piecing together thoughts and other things. So I'm not gonna edit this either. This video really just exists for a few reasons. One, I wanted this video to exist for me, and I wanted it to exist for other people. I wanted it to exist for me because these past few months, particularly November and to a greater extent December, um, I had to really step back and think about who I am, what that means, and all the other things associated with that. Um, this year in particular has been very important in terms of figuring myself out, um, because back in January, I still believed that bisexual was the appropriate label for me. Um, and it wasn't until I did more research that I found the label pansexual to be more fitting for me, because I am a person who truly believes that it doesn't matter what your identity is, it doesn't matter what gender you are, that doesn't matter to me. What matters is, like, if I am interested in you romantically or otherwise, what it boils down to is if we connect in your personality, and we go from there. It doesn't matter, guy, girl, non-binary, trans, does not matter. Just as long as you are kind to others and you exude positivity and you try your best to make the world a better place instead of making it more filled with hate than it already is, then you're golden. And when I came across that label, it clicked in my head like, oh, there are other labels that are more appropriate, that you can fit into, that you probably never heard of, or you probably never heard of it, or if you had heard of it, you've done little to no research about it. Um, and that's pretty much it. So this part of the video is where we're going to talk about gender. Oh boy, the gender. That is the topic that terrifies me, because for the longest time, I've always been the believer of, like, what makes certain activities only for guys and what makes certain activities only for girls. I've never believed in that ever. Um, as I'll show you right now, give me a second. I have nail polish. I have like several bottles of it. I don't care. I don't have them painted now, but I will soon because I'm starting to miss it a little bit. I had it back in September for my birthday, but then I took it off because I didn't like the colors, but I might put it back on pretty soon. And I painted my nails for the first time when I was like 7. And I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. But of course, you being a kid, you showing up to school with nail polish on, you immediately get all of the questions like, "Oh, you're weird." Like, "Oh, does this make you gay? Like, why are you gay now?" Like, all these other things. And like at the time, I didn't know what gay meant. I didn't know what those comments meant. So I just took it as a bad thing and took it off like the next day, just to avoid people saying anything. Um, and for the longest time, I never understood what gender was. I only knew that I was born a boy, and for a majority of my life, that's what I was comfortable with, or at least I thought I was, until I actually looked at it and I noticed that there are a lot of things that I do that are not particularly masculine or do not lean with masculinity or whatever you want to call it. Um, like, I am very feminine in my mannerisms. Um, these are stereotypical, but I'll list off some examples of like things that clicked in my brain as like, oh, this is something that I do that other boys don't do. Is that like I sit with my legs crossed sometimes, or I'll like talk with my hands, and I'll like do, like I'll drop my wrists all the time, and people will notice that, and they'll be like, oh, like you're doing this, and it's like, and I'm just me. I don't think about it that much. Um, and then it wasn't until this year that I went to my first Pride event, which was where I got this beautiful flag behind me. And I will love this flag forever. This is my first Pride flag ever, and I will never get rid of it, even though it is the symbol for the community as a whole, and I still have to order my specific flag, which I will get to in a second. I will still appreciate this because because of the memories and the significance that it holds for me specifically, and that was the extent of that. But coming to terms with my identity was something that didn't really hit full force until November, where I was scrolling on TikTok, of all places. I know TikTok stigma. Yeah, whatever. Moving on. Scrolling on TikTok, and I noticed that there was a big, very, 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 very big section dedicated to exclusively LGBTQ plus content, and I scrolled through, and a lot of it was good. A lot of it was entertaining. A lot of it was informative. A lot of it was people in the community sharing their experiences with families, with friends, with people being vitriolic, with people being bigoted, and them making light of it and trying to make it into a positive thing, so that way to prove that like these bad things do happen, but they don't have to like define you. They don't have to like you don't have to make your entire experience just about the negatives. You can turn it into something positive. And there was a specific identity within the community that I've heard about a lot, specifically through one of my very close friends, Cameron, who they themselves are non-binary, which is the identity I'm talking about. Now, I never really dug deeply into what non-binary was until I became closer to Cameron over the past year. They have really helped me in understanding that being non-binary is completely normal, but it's also very, very scary for some people who aren't ready for it or who aren't informed on it and are very, very confused, because that's what I was for the longest time. I didn't know what it was. I only knew the very bare minimum, and I live in New York, which is why you hear sirens. Sorry. Anyway, I only knew the bare minimum of it, which was somebody who doesn't fall on the gender spectrum, or who falls outside of the gender binary, but they're on the gender spectrum. That's what I meant to say. And I started looking into what non-binary was, and I figured out that that non-binary is sort of an umbrella term Because people do use the label non-binary, but there are many different kinds of non-binary that fit under that overall label. There is genderqueer. There's agender, which is you you present with no gender. You just don't use genders at all. Um, genderqueer I've mentioned already. Um, Non-binary people. That non-binary is just someone who falls outside of the gender binary. And then there's the last one, which is the one that I didn't know anything about until recently, which is gender fluid. Now, if you don't know what gender fluid is, I'll give a brief definition. Gender fluid is somebody who, basically, gender fluid is a social identity rather than a concrete identity. Gender fluid is basically somebody who exhibits both male and female attributes, depending on how they choose to present themselves socially. So, like, some days you can dress masculine and you can present as a male. Other days you can dress femininely and you can present as a female. Other days you can dress androgynously and present as neither, or you can dress as a mixture and present as both. And that was the identity that really stuck to me because when I read that definition and I started looking into it and I started looking at other people's experiences with being gender fluid and being non-binary and coming to terms with that, I noticed that a lot of what they went through lined up with me growing up, where I didn't understand the gender rules placed on certain things. Like, boys couldn't play with dolls, boys couldn't play with boys couldn't do hair, boys couldn't paint their nails, boys couldn't wear pink, boys couldn't wear heels if they didn't want to, or if they wanted to, or anything like that. Boys couldn't wear makeup. It's like all these things that we force upon ourselves and we teach to our kids and we teach to other people that, like, these things belong to this group, these things belong to the other group, and if you start to exchange things, you are seen as the weird one, you are seen as the one breaking the mold, so to speak, and you're seen as like, oh, you're weird, like, why are you doing that? Which is something that I've always fought against for the longest time, even more so now as an adult, that gender roles suck. They really do. They promote this very toxic image of, like, you can either be this thing or that thing, and if you dare to be something else, you are seen as an outcast, you are seen as weird, you are seen as abnormal. And it sucks. It promotes this thing where, like, if I try to be different, if I try to express myself, then I'm weird. I'm not gonna fit in, or people are gonna look at me like, oh, they're a freak, or they're like not somebody to be associated with because they're weird or they're different. And it's bullcrap. It's like, you shouldn't do that. Going back to the whole gender fluid thing, I didn't fully understand it in practice. I understood what it was in concept. Like, I understood, like, how to do it if you so desired, but I was looking for something that was a very, like, concrete example of somebody that was like this. And this is gonna sound weird, but I am a very, very big I'm a very big Rooster Teeth fan, and I've watched pretty much all of their shows that they've released within the past 2 years. So that includes, like, Ruby. No, Ruby came out a long time. Okay, let me rephrase. I've caught up with the shows they've released over the span of them being around over the past 2 years. So I've seen, like, Ruby and Red vs. Blue, Nomad of Nowhere, Camp, all those other shows. But there was one show that came out in January of this year that was particularly interesting to me because of one specific character. The show that I'm talking about is called Genlock. You can watch it on Rooster Teeth for free, or if you have Verve, you can watch it there as well. And there's this character in the show that goes by the name of Val. When we first meet Val, um, they are presenting as Valentina, and they are female when we first meet them. And in episode 4 of the show, by the way, the show is like sci-fi, so this is gonna make sense when I explain it. But in episode 4, the group of characters are taking some time off from work, so they jump into this like this virtual reality game where you can like it's like kind of like a VR headset. You put it on, but it's kind of like you put it on and you're like sent into the game, kind of like Ready Player One, where you put the goggles on and you're like in the game, but your body is still there. You're just wearing goggles. So in episode 4, they go into that game, and all of the characters like dress in the way that they want to. That is not a work uniform. So the main character Chase wears just like a hoodie. And then like one character decides to be a bunny because why not? Another character decides to wear a hijab because she wants to. And then Valentina, shows up in the game, and she's no longer a girl. She's her player character is a guy. And one of the characters asks her like, "Oh, when you play games, you play as a guy, right?" Oh no, I'm forgetting a piece of I'm forgetting a piece of information. They all meet up, and one of the characters asks like, "Oh, like is that you?" Like, cause they didn't recognize her at first. Like is that you, Valentina? Like, and she was like, "You know what? I think it's time to use Val again." And at first, like even I was confused as the audience, as the watcher. I was like, "What? What is she talking about?" And then another character asked like, "You'll play as guys?" It's like, "Yeah." It's like, "Yeah, well, not right now. Like, I am I am a man, but it's not role playing." And then somebody's asking like, what are you talking about?" And then the character who is a bunny says, "Think gender fluid." And one of the characters asks, "What is that?" It's like, and she says like, she explains like, "I am physically female now, but maybe soon perhaps a change." It's like, "So you're a man?" It's like yes, but not right now. I feel the push coming on again, like I haven't in a long time. Meaning that like, gender fluid is basically what it says in the title. You can present however you want. It's just a matter of how you present yourself. It's not you like changing your body or anything like that. It's just the way you are expressing yourself and the way you want others to perceive you that defines what a gender fluid person is. And I felt like that one example made it click in my head of like, that is what it means to be gender fluid. That is somebody who is like, who understands that like, my gender is mine and it does fluctuate, but that's who I am, and whoever doesn't like it, that's fine. I don't that's a you problem. I'm gonna do what I want to do. So yeah, that was pretty much the extent of that. This was back in January, so this was like way before I knew about my impending battle with gender that I had over the past 3 months. But going back now and rewatching that clip, it made perfect sense of why it interested me so much at the time. It's like, yeah, there was a reason for that. It's because that's you. That is you. Part of you is in that character somewhere, and you just don't know it yet. So, part of the reason why I'm also making this video is just to have a place not only for me but for you guys to come back to if you are ever feeling confused or lost or anything of the sort when it comes to these sorts of things. I will just say this right off the bat. If you're rewatching this after the fact, you don't have to watch the whole thing if you've already watched it once. I mean, you can if you want, but you don't have. You can just skip to this part after the fact if you just want to hear this little snippet of the video to help you along. And what I'm going to say to you is, if you are ever in this position where you are lost with no sense of direction, where you feel like your choices don't matter, where you feel like you don't know who you are and you feel like you'll never find that answer, it's okay. You don't need to have all the answers right now. You will find them. It might take a while. It might take days, it might take weeks, months, even years. But you will find them. It took me 21 years of my life to get this answer. You will find it. Trust me, it is out there for you. You just have to look, and you have to be patient. I know that's not what you want to hear. I know that's not the easiest thing to accept. Patience can suck sometimes, especially when you want answers right away. But I'm telling you, when it comes to these things, or life in general, patience will take you very, very far. It's not something to envy. It's not something to spite. It's not something to be angry at. It's something that you should embrace, and it's something that you should carry with you all the time to ease whatever doubt or anxiety that you have in your mind when it comes to any decision or any life-altering event. Just remember that in time, things will make sense, even if it's not today, even if it's not tomorrow, even if it's 6 or 13 months from now. It doesn't matter. You will get there. It's just a matter of taking the first steps. It's a matter of making the progress, making the effort to go along the path. Or if you don't find a path, make your own. And you will find where you want to go eventually. Now, for those of you who are seeing this for the first time, this reveal will be... this reveal is mainly for me. And there's a reason why I'm doing it this way. Because if I don't have this in a tangible form, where it's real, where I can show people like, I did this, it is my decision, it is what I've chosen to do, and it's what I will continue to do no matter what, then it won't change. At least for me, it won't. So what I'm going to do right now is reintroduce myself to you guys, to anybody who might stumble across this in searching for advice on YouTube when you are out of questions, or you don't have any answers for questions about this sort of thing, about identity and about gender and about finding yourself and about what it means when you finally get the answer. And what I'll do is, like I said, reintroduce myself. Hello. My name is Xavier. That name may change very soon. I'm still deciding on it. But